Welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to build a cheap functional workbench from 2x4s. My bench design is loosely based on one by Matthias Wandel. The main difference is that my entire bench is made from 2x4s, including the top. The bench is constructed of two sets of uprights. These connect to two horizontal pieces. A couple pieces of bracing are added, and then more 2x4s are screwed down to serve as the top. I started by cutting the pieces to length with the circular saw. These 2x10s are going to serve as the cross pieces on the bench. On Matthias's bench, he makes dados for the uprights to fit into. And I was thinking, well, that works well, but what if we just took a couple blocks and screwed and glued those on instead? The cross piece, or the uprights can fit into these. Then you're not taking any of the width of the cross member. You're not weakening it at all. And it's actually a lot easier to just glue and screw a couple blocks on here than it is to make a dado. So that's what we're going to do. I wanted to make it really easy to level the bench, so I added lag bolts to the bottom of the legs. Now I'm going to work on putting together the leg assembly, and to make that easier I set up kind of a little jig here. These will be the horizontal pieces of the leg assembly. I have those attached to the side of my bench. If you don't happen to have a bench already, you could set up a couple sawhorses and put some of your extra 2x10s on there, attach them to those. I just have a little backstop here that I put my leg against. And then I just line it up to the top here. The legs are attached with a couple clamps to make sure that they're very securely attached. They also put some of this rubber stuff that you put in the bottom of drawers. This keeps it from slipping side to side. It's really handy to use in cases like this, or you can put it in the vise. It's nice to have around the shop. Now I just need to clamp this piece to this kind of backstop here. And I also made up a little guide for the drill. On the drill press, I drilled these holes and put them exactly in the center of this piece of 2x4. So then they'll be exactly in the center of this 2x4 and line up right with these horizontal members. So this will put it in the right place, and it's also going to help guide that drill bit so it's not leaning one side or the other. It's not going to be super accurate, especially with the spade bit that I'm using, but it certainly is going to make it more accurate than just trying to do it by hand. With the spade bit, I found that moderate speed works best. If you try to go too fast, it just doesn't even want to dig in. And also, a good amount of pressure is necessary. I've also found that cleaning it off between the holes, or at least between every few holes, is a good idea, because those little pieces of wood will get stuck on it, and then that deters it from catching. So spade bits actually work surprisingly well, and they're super cheap. I bought a set of, I think, like 12 of them, and it was $9. So you can get a whole variety of sizes, and they're really quite inexpensive. Assembling the bench is going to be a little bit tricky. To make it easier, I put these blocks on both sides of the leg assemblies. This is the exact height of the horizontal piece that's going to rest on it. So the top of the horizontal piece will be even with the top here. So then I can just rest the horizontal pieces on these blocks, screw them together, and that'll keep everything lined up and supported while I'm putting the whole thing together. To help keep everything lined up when I'm screwing pieces together, I clamp this framing square into the corner. That'll keep it perpendicular, keep the vertical and the horizontal pieces perpendicular to each other. As I've been putting the bench together, I've been using the framing square a lot just to make sure everything is square. It's really important when putting it together at this stage to get everything as square as possible, I think. It's worth spending a little bit of extra time, and then you're going to have less problems later on, because you really want to have a bench with a nice flat top. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm not expecting it to be like a perfectly flat assembly table or anything like that. But the flatter it is, the more you're going to be happy with it in the future. So using this double check a lot. I'm at the last corner right now, and the legs are actually towed in a little bit. So I'm using another piece of 2x4 to clamp to both legs and push them out just a little bit so I can get that last corner in all tidied up. Added these two pieces to go across the middle. This will help support the 2x4s that stretch all the way from one end to the other. The whole top is going to be made out of 2x4s. So if I had a clear span right in the middle, that's it's about 8 feet that they would have to support individually, because they're not really going to be screwed together. They're just going to be screwed to the ends, and they're going to be screwed to these supports. So with these here, the biggest span we have is maybe only about a little over 2 feet, and that's going to keep it really stable, not going to allow much room for flex in the top. I was getting kind of excited because I'm actually getting pretty close to done with this project, and I was just about to start screwing on the top when I realized that it's not quite as square as I want it to be. I'll show you, it's just a little bit off. As I talked about previously, I made sure that each of the corners was very square. The legs are square with the horizontal members. But what I didn't think about was the fact that it could be twisted this way. So this piece, this cross piece, is not square to this. You can see when I put that framing square up there, there's a little bit of gap right here. And I had a little bit of trouble figuring out how I was going to fix it, but I eventually did come up with a way. Right now the angle in this corner is smaller than it should be, so smaller than 90 degrees. The angle in this corner is greater than 90 degrees. And so if I shorten this up a little bit, it's going to make this angle wider or larger, and this one smaller, and it's going to get us closer to 90 degrees. So now I got this corner basically almost dead on 90 degrees. I'm not going to worry too much about it, because even if I get this one to be exactly 90 degrees, I know that not all the other corners are going to be, because there's slight twist in the 2x4s and whatnot. But as long as we're getting it pretty close to the ballpark, I'm okay with that. Now, to make sure that it doesn't shift at all once I have it here, I'm going to screw on a few braces here like this. Okay, and then what that's going to allow me to do is start putting down the 2x4s that are going to run all the way along the length. Once I get a few rows of those 2x4s on this side, then I'm not going to have to worry about it shifting back, because that's going to create enough support. It's going to prevent any twisting back to how it was before. I'm ready to screw down this first piece, and I took a little bit of extra time setting it up because I wanted to make sure that that first piece was on just right, since all the other pieces are going to butt up against it. On the back, it overhangs by 3/4 of an inch, and if I do it right, it should also overhang by 3/4 of an inch in the front. Putting those leg screws on the bottom of the legs made it really easy to level the bench. I got it just about as level as you can expect from a bench that's made out of 2x4s that are straight from your local big box store. I'm really happy with the way the bench turned out. It was really pretty easy to build. It only took me about a day. It was very inexpensive, and it gives me a lot more workspace, so I'm really going to use it a lot. It's going to be a valuable addition to my workshop. I want to give a special shout out to Matthias, whose bench I loosely based my bench on. If you haven't seen any of his videos, you should definitely check him out, whether you're into woodworking or engineering or just making cool stuff. He makes some really great videos, and he's got a nice website too with a lot of tutorials about how to make different stuff. So check him out. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, click that circle to subscribe and you'll get notified when I put out new videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care.